I was crawling east in a whiteout, 28 on the overlay, 03:11 a.m., mile marker 142, when my low beams found her. A woman in a thin dress, bare knees in the snow, waving a point-and-shoot camera like a flare. A kid stood behind her, hugging a teddy bear. I eased to the shoulder, opened the passenger door, and warm air hit faces that looked like they'd been borrowing time. She climbed in shaking, set the camera on my dash and whispered, "Please don't call him." "Who is him?" The question stuck in my head as the windshield filled with snow. 3 hours later, blue and red flooded my mirrors, and a voice on a PA tore the night in half. "Driver, step out of the truck. Drivers, tell us in the comments below where you're watching from." The heater was losing the argument with the storm when I got them inside. My overlay held at 28 mph, the dash read at 6 degrees Celsius, and the mic picked up the shutter beep of her camera as she set it down like a pet that needed watching. I gave the kid my extra beanie and a mylar blanket, crinkly and loud, the sound of staying. I said the mile marker out loud, 142 eastbound, because numbers matter when emotions start trying to narrate. "Name?" I asked gently. She said Maya, voice too small for her bones. The girl was Ellie, 5, maybe 6, teddy bear named Biscuit. "Car?" I asked. "Back there," she said, thumb over her shoulder. "Dead. He'll circle back." That sentence didn't belong to the weather. I told them to sit tight, doors locked, belts on. I called it in. 2 pedestrians rescued in blizzard, MM142, shoulder eastbound, adult and child, vehicle disabled, unknown. Dispatch copied, asked if I needed medical. "Negative for now," I said, warming them up. There was a pause, then, "Advise if any vehicles linger." Linger, not stop. Interesting choice of verb. We rolled, slow as a prayer. I kept the glass clear and the cab bright, so the kid would believe the light belonged to her. Maya's hands were blue at the nails, the kind of cold that makes people answer questions out of order. "You always carry a camera?" I asked. She stared at the little point and shoot on the dash, like it might answer for her. "I film everything," she said. "He hates that." I didn't ask who he was yet. The road would introduce us if it wanted to. At 03:18, a black SUV appeared in my left mirror, too close for the weather, light bar across the roof that wasn't stock, but wasn't law either. It paced me 1 car length back, then 2, then 1 again. My dashcam mic caught a soft whine, his tires hunting for grip, or mine asking for help. I said the plate partial out loud, KQX9 and a smear. Maya shrank into the seat like I'd read a secret. "That's him," she said. "Don't stop." I didn't. I also didn't say what I was thinking. People who don't belong next to you in a storm usually arrived for you, not the weather. The SUV tried the right side, but I let my trailer claim the wind, line clean and wide, no invitation. He fell back, then surged, then fell back again, the dance of someone who wants a mistake to borrow. I toggled the CB. A driver 10 miles behind answered, "Moose," and promised to roll a second wall if I needed one. "Say the marker when you call," he said. "Storms erasing lines." 142 to 148, I answered. Black SUV, light bar, plate KQX something. My camera blinked once, like it had marked the clip on purpose. Maya's story came out like breath on glass, slow, fogged, and true in shapes. She and Ellie had left a house with a man who wasn't their friend anymore. The camera? It had his voice on it, she said. She used to film hikes and school plays and sunsets, then started filming arguments when they turned into instructions. "He grabbed my phone last week," she said, eyes on the wiper arc. "He forgets the camera is older. He doesn't know how to erase it." She flinched when the SUV washed our lane with brights. "He will if he gets it." Open loop. I still didn't know whether we were outrunning a jealous fool or someone whose night had already crossed into crimes. Either way, my clip was going to decide who got believed. I put distance between us, not speed, 31 on the overlay. Big gap ahead, no hero moves. The SUV disappeared in the storm, then reappeared at the next ramp, nose out like a question mark. He'd gone up, turned, and slid down to wait. I took the middle lane, and my horn gave the night a spine. He ghosted up behind us again and stayed there, 2 car lengths now, calmer. The kid slept, cheek against biscuit, like children do when the grown-ups finally stop pretending the wind isn't real. Maya stared at the camera on the dash and bit the corner of her lip. "What's on it?" I asked softly. "Names," she said. "Places." His hand. The way she said hand was a photograph all by itself. At 03:34, my phone buzzed with a highway alert. Amber, white sedan, adult female W, juvenile, possible non-custodial abduction, last seen westbound at MM 127. The description was broad enough to fit any snow and scary enough to fit us. My thumb hovered over the call button for the post. Maya saw the alert reflected in the window and shook her head fast. "He knows a deputy," she said. "He said if I tell my side, I'll regret the paperwork." Most threats come cheap. The ones that mention paper have been practiced. I called anyway. Paper likes timestamps more than rumors. I told dispatch I had 2 souls, an SUV pacing, a camera with possible evidence, and an alert that just taught the storm a new vocabulary. They asked me to head for Post 9, a barracks set just off MM 156, and to avoid rest areas. "We'll meet you on the ramp," the operator said. "Do not stop for unmarked vehicles." "Copy," I said, and checked the mirror. The SUV kept a careful distance now, like it had read the same sentence. Open loop. If Post 9 was expecting us, so might the person who didn't want us to arrive. We rolled past MM 149, then 152, snow thinner now, and the storm breaking in ragged pieces. The kid woke and asked if bears wear coats. "The smart ones," I said, and she smiled a little like the world might still have jokes in it. Maya held the camera with both hands like it might fall through the dash if she didn't. "Back up the clip to my phone," I said, "then hand me the card." She worked the tiny menu with shaking thumbs. The camera beeped once. "Done," she said. I held out a spare envelope from my logbook, and she slid the SD card in. I tucked it in the shallow slot under the radio. Old trucker trick. Thieves forget trucks have seams. The SUV moved to the shoulder, then surged and lined up on my passenger side, window down despite the cold. A man leaned out, beard rimed in frost, and made a pullover gesture with the confidence of someone who has gotten away with that gesture before. I ignored him. He shouted a name, "Maya!" and my mic caught it clean. She folded herself smaller, and the kid flinched awake. The SUV fell back again, then dove for the next exit ramp like he wanted to get ahead for one last try. 2 miles, I told Maya. Post 9 is 2 miles. She nodded, then put the camera in her lap and whispered, "He took her birth certificate out of the drawer when he moved in." It was the kind of detail you only dredge up when your brain has started doing inventory for a judge. "We're going to hand this to someone who cares about exactly that kind of detail," I said. I meant it. I also meant to make it to the ramp before anyone tried a movie. I took the 156 off-ramp wide and gentle. A cruiser waited at the top, angled light bar low, state police on the door. The PA popped. "Truck, proceed forward, stop at the cones." I did. The SUV took the shoulder after me and slid to a stop 20 yards back. A second cruiser appeared from the far lane and boxed him. For one heartbeat, I believed in clean endings. Then the PA aimed at my cab. "Driver, step out of the truck." I glanced at Maya. She hugged the camera to her chest. The kid looked like a question mark made of pajamas. "It's okay," I said. "Keep the doors locked. When I get to the trooper, I'm saying 3 things. I held up fingers. "Mile marker, plate, and there's evidence in the cab." She nodded and mouthed evidence like a spell. I climbed down slow. Hands where the cold could see them, boots found slush. A trooper stood behind his door, squared up, uncertain which story the night belonged to. Behind him, the SUV driver was already out, voice hot in the air. "That's my fiancée. He picked her up. She took my kid." He said kid like a trophy. He pointed at me like a plan. The other trooper held him where he was with 2 quiet inches of posture. "Driver," my trooper said, "you have 2 people in your cab." "Yes," I said. Adult female, juvenile. They were on the shoulder at 142 in a blizzard. I kept my voice at the speed limit. They are willing to talk, and there's video evidence in the cab that needs chain of custody. His eyes flicked. From what? From him, I said, nodding at the man with frost on his beard and rage in his knees. Open loop, I still didn't know if I was handing the camera to someone who would believe it, or to a man the SUV driver had indeed practiced paperwork with. The trooper held out a hand for my license and asked what else the clip might show. Names, I said. Conversations, dates. He asked the girl's name. Ellie, I said. He looked relieved to hear a small, normal name in a big, abnormal sentence. He keyed his radio and asked for a supervisor with family violence training. The SUV driver yelled that I was kidnapping his fiancée and interfering with custody. The kid in my cab put her hands over her ears and the bear over her heart. Hold tight, the trooper told me, and walked to the cab door. He tapped the window with 2 knuckles, polite enough to be remembered later. Maya cracked it an inch. Ma'am, he said, I'm going to ask you to step out, and I'm going to ask you a few questions out of his earshot. She whispered, Is there a woman I can talk to? He nodded and pointed to the building. Inside, he said. Warm room, coffee. She looked at me. I said, Take the camera. She did. The trooper escorted her to the door, where a female sergeant met them with a blanket I recognized from the trunk of every cruiser. The second trooper kept the SUV driver where he was, asking neutral questions that didn't deserve neutral answers. She's confused, the man said. He made her get in. I was trying to help. The trooper asked why he'd been pacing me for 12 miles. The man said, Traffic. The trooper's face stayed the way training teaches. 5 minutes turned to 10. Wind chewed the edge of the ramp. My trooper returned with a new expression, a mixture of purpose and the anger good cops spend like money. He held out a blue latex glove. Card? He asked. I handed him the envelope like a relay baton. He labeled it with time, my plate, MM142, and initials that would matter more than my feelings. She also has matching audio on her phone, he said quietly. And photos. And a restraining order that isn't expired yet, but he thinks it is. He glanced at the SUV driver. He is not her husband. The child is not his. Open loop. We had evidence and we had a story, but we didn't yet have the part that sells a room, the part where the camera catches the lie wearing its favorite shirt. The supervisor arrived, calm, older, built for weather and conflict both. He asked to see the clip. I cued my Dashcam to the pass where the SUV driver leaned out and yelled, Maya! And the plate KQX9 showed between snow gusts. The sergeant watched without commentary. He'd been here before. Inside, Maya held her camera like Faith. She tapped through clips with the other sergeant. Porch arguments. A photo of a birth certificate spread on a table that wasn't hers. A voicemail from the SUV driver explaining custody laws that didn't exist. None of it was dramatic. All of it was paper. The supervisor stepped back to me. We're going to separate them fully, he said. You did right. Can Ellie sit with you 5 more minutes while we finish some forms? We want her warm, and we don't want him near her. Of course, I said. I climbed back into the cab, where Ellie had discovered the joy of blowing on a hot chocolate lid. Do bears drink cocoa? She asked. Only when they save people, I said. She smiled at Biscuit, who seemed to agree. Through the windshield, I watched a small ceremony of truth. The second trooper read the SUV driver a short list he hated. The supervisor put the envelope with the SD card into another envelope and wrote a case number that made the night official. The female sergeant walked Maya back out with a steadier step. She looked taller by an inch. The inch that comes from a room that doesn't talk over you. Open loop. I still didn't know what exactly she had recorded that would become the hinge in a courtroom, and whether the next sentence out of the SUV driver's mouth would be apology, threat, or a brand new lie he'd been saving for winter. Driver, my trooper said, leaning to my door again. You helped us get ahead of something ugly. He nodded toward the building. She's going to give a statement. We'll arrange a safe ride to a shelter. He hesitated. Would you mind? He pointed at the vending machines inside. She asked if Ellie could have pretzels. We're thin on snacks in a blizzard. I'll get them, I said, already reaching for my wallet. Before I went in, I looked at the camera mount, my own, and at the spot under the radio where the envelope had been. And I thought about how many nights believe in words and how many need video. The little red light blinked exactly once, like a heartbeat relieved to be counted. I took the trooper's hint and hustled the pretzels inside. Ellie sat at a desk by the heater, boots off, steam lifting off her socks like a trick. The female sergeant, Torres, had the patience of someone who measures progress in inches. She poured cocoa, slid the pretzels over and asked questions that didn't bruise. Names, today's date, where they started, who he was. Maya kept one palm on the little camera like a life jacket. She didn't say much. The camera did. The supervisor copied the SD card in a room with a glass window so everyone knew the chain was clean. He didn't skim. He watched, timestamp by timestamp, while Torres sat with Maya and built a timeline on a yellow pad. Clip 1, a living room with tan carpet and a TV blue-screened at midnight. His voice, a man trying to sound reasonable with a jaw that couldn't, said, "If you take her, I'll call my guy at county and say you abducted her. They'll put the notice out before you hit the highway." No shouting, just the cadence of a threat he believed had a mailing address. Clip 2, a kitchen table. A birth certificate photographed next to a coffee mug with a hardware store logo. His hand slid it into a folder. "This doesn't make you Dad," Maya said on the audio. "It makes me safe," he answered. The word safe didn't sound like safety. Clip 3, a porch camera. Her point and shoot leaning against a flower pot while it recorded an argument about keys. In the last 10 seconds, a small beep and an angle shift I recognized. He hadn't noticed it was still rolling when he lifted it. "I can delete," he told her. "From the phone," she said. "Not from this." The clip ended on his palm. Torres wrote fast and neat. The supervisor stepped back into the hall and gave me the nod people give when the wind has changed in the right direction. The other piece took longer, the storm-churned part between MM142 and MM156 that my dashcam had held steady. A tech at post 9 paired my clips with ramp cameras and the amber message from earlier. The sequence lined up like studs in a wall. Maya and Ellie on the shoulder, my stop and pick up, the black SUV pacing, the voice caught when he leaned out and called Maya, the slow convoy into the station. My overlay never left the high 20s and low 30s. His headlights kept bobbing where brake and impulse live. Torres came back with a small ask that told me they were doing it right. "Ellie says Biscuit's ear hurts," she said. "She wants to keep the bear during the pictures." I said, "Bear stays." Maya exhaled a laugh that sounded like it hadn't had permission to exist in a week. There are 100 ways to lose people in a process. Letting a kid keep what she's holding isn't one of them. The SUV driver demanded to clear this up face to face. The supervisor declined. "You'll clear it up into my recorder," he said, and didn't raise his voice. The man talked anyway, about being a protector, about kidnapping, about a deputy who knew the situation. The supervisor asked for the deputy's name and then called him. Minutes later, the deputy called back, sounding surprised to be in the script at all. "Knew him from a softball league," he said. "Didn't know a thing about a child." That phone call left the room cooler than the hallway. We still needed the hinge, the part juries believe even when the rest of the story feels foggy. It arrived when a trooper with a handheld detector scanned the SUV and found a magnet-mount GPS puck wedged under the passenger side, warm to the touch in a storm that froze eyelashes. He photographed it, pulled the serial, and read it to the supervisor. The serial returned to a retail account with the SUV driver's email. "For emergencies," the man said. "Emergencies don't stick magnets under people in the dark." They didn't cuff him in front of Ellie. They asked him to face the cruiser, explained what came next, and let the door close soft. The charges would start as violating a protective order, stalking, reckless endangerment, and false report tied to the amber call he'd made an hour earlier. A detective would decide the rest after sleep and code. The SUV went onto a flatbed without drama. Its light bar looked smaller without the story it wanted to tell. While paperwork found its nouns, Torres asked me for a clean statement. I gave it the way I give miles. Steady, with markers. I said 0311 at MM142, the pickup, the KQX partial, the pacing, MM156, the PA, the envelope. I included the sentences Maya had handed me that mattered most. Please don't call him. He hates that I film, and he took the birth certificate. If you don't write the right words, the wrong ones creep in later and pretend they were there from the start. I sat with Ellie on the bench by the vending machine while Maya finished signing. Ellie lined pretzels along Biscuit's arm like medals. Bears don't like blizzards, she said. Truckers don't either, I told her, but we're bigger than the wind. She blinked like she was testing the idea and then nodded because kids understand scale better than adults do. A shelter advocate arrived. Jeans, warm coat, a tote bag of the kind of small, necessary things that make a person feel like a person faster. Toothbrushes, socks, a phone charger, a gift card. She spoke to Maya the way nurses talk to pain. They figured out where to go that wasn't where they'd been. The advocate asked if a friend could meet them later with a spare car seat. Torres shook her head. We'll find you one right now, she said. And a quarter-hour later an officer carried in a new seat with tags still on. It wasn't charity, it was logistics. We still had one more shadow to walk past. The idea that the Amber had named Maya a suspect, even for a few hours. The supervisor typed a short rescission note into the system that would ride along with any later search and keep patrol cars from looking at Maya like a headline. File will reflect non-custodial interference by the mail, he said, and your camera makes that sentence stick. Maya asked if she could keep a copy of the clips in case phones disappear. The tech burned a small USB and slid it into a sleeve stamped with a case number. Maya slid it into her pocket and stood an inch taller again. People shrink when they're told their memory doesn't count. They grow back when evidence learns their name. I walked out to the rig with Ellie balancing Biscuit on my step like a figurehead. Snow had turned to grit and moonlight. The wind died like a loud person leaving a room. The supervisor met me at the bumper and held out his hand. You bought us time we couldn't buy any other way, he said. I told him the truest version. The camera did. I just moved when it told me. He nodded. That slow agreement good cops carry. I could have rolled right then, called it a night that ended in a file number, and let sleep do the last mile. But mercy is a habit like mirrors. I asked the advocate where they'd land. We have beds, she said, but no coats that fit. The thrift store in town opened at 8. I drove my deadhead bobtail there at 7:50, idled with the heat on, and was first through the door when they flipped the sign. I bought a down coat, snow pants, mittens, a hat for Ellie with a silly pom. For Maya I grabbed a lined parka that looked like it could talk back to February, and a cheap camera case with a zipper that wouldn't give up. The clerk smiled at the pile and said, "Storm discount, driver." I told her I wasn't here for math. Back at post 9, Torres had a duffel ready for them. I handed the bag over and told Ellie she owed me a snowman when spring forgot itself and dumped a late one. She saluted with the mittens like a captain. Maya tucked the camera into the new case, zipped it once, and exhaled, as if the sound alone convinced the universe to keep its hands off. We walked them to the advocate's SUV. Ellie climbed into the new car seat like it had been waiting for her. Maya hesitated with the door half open and looked down at the camera, then at me. "You believed me before anyone else did," she said. "I believed the recording," I answered, "and the way you held it." She swallowed, nodded and buckled in. I pulled out not long after they did. The mile markers counted themselves backward to the place where night used to be. I thought about the men who imagine paperwork as a weapon and about the rooms where women learn the opposite. How paper can be a lock that keeps things in or a door that lets them out. I thought about the little red light on my dash. It blinks, it remembers, it asks almost nothing. In return, it gives shape to the part of a story people try to sand down. Halfway to my drop, the phone chirped with 2 messages. The first was from Torres. Arrived safe. She asked me to tell you Ellie named the bear Biscuit Sir Pretzel. The second was from the supervisor. Formal charges filed. Violation of order, stalking W and electronic device, reckless endangerment, false report. Amber noted as misused by reporting party. Thanks for the clean handoff. I gave the wheel a light tap the way some folks pat a dog. Then I said the mile marker out loud and let the road do its steady, boring magic. 2 days later, a small envelope showed up at my next terminal, inter-office from the shelter. Inside was a Polaroid made by that little point-and-shoot, Ellie in the new coat, hat crooked, Biscuit Sir Pretzel tucked under her arm, Maya behind her, eyes less hunted, the camera case strap across her chest. On the back, in careful block letters, Ellie had written 2 words someone spelled for her. Thank you. That's a noun I don't hang on the wall. I keep it in the glove box, with my logbook and the notes I make when the night starts talking too fast. If there's a lesson to put in a pocket, it's small and stubborn. Believe your instruments and keep your receipts. The world is full of people who will try to talk louder than your memory. The fix is to carry a memory that talks for itself. That night, it was a point and shoot with a beep and a trucker cam with a red dot. Next week, it'll be something else with a timestamp. Either way, the job is the same. Keep a lane open, keep a promise, keep the story from being the version that pays the wrong person. Drivers, tell us in the comments below where you're watching from, city, state, or the mile marker that raised you. And if you want more nights where receipts beat rumors and decent folks win by inches, subscribe so the next run finds you. Next time, I'll tell you about a way station random that wasn't, until a backup cam and a page from my logbook taught a stopwatch the difference between downhill and dishonest.